Hi everyone, I'm Nadia, and in today's video my mom is creating a beautiful water effect in a resin wall art piece. In this clip, she's adding a second layer. She had placed vinyl into a wooden frame, and if you'd like more detailed information on this step, we have a whole video showing the step-by-step process, and I'll leave that linked above. And she is doing this piece into the frame where she'll be placing it in later so that it fits perfectly. If you guys enjoy my tutorials on YouTube, please leave a thumbs up and a comment. It really helps out my channel. And here she is the next day removing her resin water effect piece from the vinyl. Now she's taking her wooden frame, which does already have an indented surface, so it's perfect to pour resin into. She's adding wood glue into the crevices to seal in the sides to make sure that the resin doesn't leak. She is using craft resin in this video, which is a 1-to-1 ratio by volume. It's very easy to work with and we love working with it. If you'd like to give them a try, I'll have a discount code in my description. She mixed in her resin and added in some sand to be the base layer. She mixes in the sand and continues to add more until she's happy with the consistency. Then she starts to pour, starting around the edges and slowly working her way towards the center. She uses a silicone makeup brush to make sure that the resin has reached the very edges, and also uses it to thinly spread out the resin towards the center. This part doesn't need to be very precise because she will be placing rocks on top of it. She has a whole tray full of pebbles that she's collected at the beach and starts to apply it into the wooden frame. And next she adds in some seashells. Now she's taking her resin water effect piece and spraying it with water before she lightly sands it by hand. And this is just to ensure that these two layers of resin will bond together. After sanding, she wipes it down to make sure that there's no residue left over. She gets her frame ready to pour on, and here she had already mixed in her resin and her pigments, which she shows later on in the video which pigments she used. She uses the same pigments for each layer, so stay tuned for that. She starts off by pouring clear resin where the very shoreline will be, and works her way by pouring the lighter shades to the darker shades. She mixed in a combination of her darker blue with her lighter blue to get a slightly lighter shade than her darkest blue and pour right in between so that it blends out nicer. She uses her silicone makeup brush to spread the resin and blend out her colors nicely, and continues to pour in areas where it's missing resin. This piece really reminds me of our beautiful coastline here in Croatia and is a great project for any beach lovers. As always, I'll have all the products that you see in this video listed in my description, so be sure to check that out if you're interested. She's using a torch gun to pop any air bubbles, and anytime you're using a torch gun, you want to be very careful to move it quickly so that you don't burn your resin. She comes back the next day once this first layer has hardened and mixes in her resin once more. Again, she's using craft resin and pours equal amounts into a larger cup. She mixes well for several minutes, though to ensure that your resin has been mixed properly in all areas, you can mix for around 5 minutes. Here, she's just doing a little test run of adding in her water effect piece and removes it to add in another layer of resin. She separates it into smaller cups to add in her pigments. The first pigment she's using is just Resin's Phthalo Blue, and she puts a small amount onto a wooden stick and adds that into her cup of resin. She mixes that in and then moves on to her second cup, which is going to be a mixture of DuPont's alcohol ink in the shade Intense Teal and J. Diction's transparent pigment in the shade Green. She also adds in that same green pigment into her third cup. Once all of the pigments are mixed in, she's ready to pour and starts off with her lighter shades, and then moving on to her darker blues. And here she's mixing in a little bit more of the Intense Teal and Green pigment. Again, she uses a torch gun to pop any air bubbles, and uses a wooden stick to pick out any dust and imperfections. She's taking an alcohol wipe now and just wiping along the edges to make sure that there are no resin drips and leave that area nice and clean. Now she takes her water effect piece and starts off by pouring a small amount of resin onto it and spreads it out using her hands. She is using nitrile gloves on her hands. You'll always want to make sure that you are wearing your protective gear. 100% nitrile gloves are always the way to go. This will help that these two layers of resin bond together, and should also help in reducing the amount of air bubbles that get trapped underneath. She carefully places it in and allows the resin to start covering that bottom surface. She pushes it in and quickly notices some large air bubbles that have gotten trapped. So to help get rid of them, she's just lifting her piece and carefully placing it down once more. She continues to push the piece down, and this will also help to release any trapped air. You can see as she's pushing down, these air bubbles are being released through the edges. And now she's adding a very light coat of resin on top. So to do this, again, she's just using her silicone makeup brush and very thinly covering the piece. And here's the final product. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, subscribe to see more videos like this in the future. Follow me on my Instagram, Summer Girl Designs, and my mom's Instagram, Wild Heart Resin Art.